Welcome to the deep dive. If you're currently building something, maybe launching a venture, or even just steering a complex project, you've probably felt it, right? The entrepreneurial world, it's dynamic, it can feel chaotic, like you're constantly juggling.
Absolutely. Product, market, team, funding.
hmm
It's a lot.
Exactly. And in that kind of environment, just thinking linearly, A leads to B leads to C, it often just falls short. It doesn't really capture the complex web of stuff that makes things work or, well, not work.
And that's exactly why we're diving into systems thinking for ventures today. You can think of systems thinking as maybe the compass entrepreneurs really need. Helps you navigate all that complexity.
The compass. I like that.
Yeah, and not just navigate, but actually build businesses that are, more resilient, more impactful in the long run. So our mission here is pretty straightforward. We want to pull out the most important nuggets from the material we've looked at, give you kind of shortcut to understanding this really crucial approach.
Okay, let's unpack this then. This idea of systems thinking. It sounds like it could really shift how you look at building anything,
Yeah.
really. So what are we talking about when we say systems thinking?
Well, at its heart, it's really a fundamental shift in perspective. It's
Mhm.
about taking a holistic view, understanding how all the different bits and pieces of a system connect and how the whole thing works over time.
Within bigger systems too, right?
Exactly. Always within larger context. So instead of just breaking a problem down into isolated parts, which is what we often do, it pushes you to see the whole picture, the patterns, the interconnections. You're trying to understand the entire organism, not just fix one symptom.
Okay, and what I find really interesting here is how our sources break this down into some core concepts. They seem powerful. Let's maybe start with interconnectedness. How does that show up in a venture?
Right. Interconnectedness. It's more than just things being linked. It's realizing that any action, even a small one, is going to send ripples through the whole system.
So,
Yeah, and often in surprising ways you didn't expect. So in your venture, it's not just, say, marketing affecting sales directly. That's obvious. It's more like how a small change in how you hire someone might, months later, impact your team's ability to innovate because the dynamic shifted. It's those hidden connections.
hearing that makes me think about cause and effect. It's almost never a straight line in business, is it? Is that where feedback loops come in? Can they show you what's really driving growth or maybe what's secretly slowing things down?
Absolutely. And linear thinking just doesn't capture this well. Systems run on feedback loops. They can be reinforcing, meaning they amplify change.
Like happy customers telling their friends.
Exactly. More happy customers mean more referrals, which means more happy customers. Growth snowballs. But they can also be balancing loops. These try to stabilize the system, or sometimes they create limits,
Okay, like a constraint.
right? Like demand increases, which is great, but then it swamps your production capacity. Satisfaction drops, and eventually demand might fall off a bit to match capacity. Identifying these loops, both the good and the limiting ones, is just critical for understanding what's actually pushing your venture forward or holding it back.
That makes way more sense than just simple cause and effect. So the system itself can create surprises through this thing called emergence. It sounds almost magical.
It does feel a bit like magic sometimes, doesn't it? But really, it's just the outcome of all those interconnected parts doing their thing. Complex systems often show emergent behavior. The whole is genuinely more than the sum of its parts.
Like unexpected results.
Yeah, new patterns pop up from the interactions themselves. Think about, like, a city's traffic flow or its unique culture. No one person designed that. It just emerges from millions of people interacting. For a startup, your company culture or even breakthrough innovations might just emerge organically from how your team interacts, not because someone planned it step by step.
Huh. And then there are delays. This feels really relevant for startups, especially when you expect results fast. How do these hidden time lags fit in?
Oh, they're huge. Crucial to understand. Time delays often separate an action from its consequences. If you underestimate them, you can make really bad decisions or just burn out waiting for something to happen.
Like a marketing campaign.
Exactly. You launch it today, but it might take weeks, maybe months for awareness to build, leads to convert, and the revenue to actually show up. So understanding these delays is key for judging if your strategy is working. You need a bit of strategic patience.
Okay, so you've got interconnectedness, feedback loops, emergence, delays. It's a lot swirling around. How do you actually make a difference? Our sources talk about leverage points. Are these like the secret buttons to push?
That's a great way to put it. Leverage points are where you ideally want to focus your effort. They're small changes, small interventions that can create really significant lasting improvements across the whole system.
So maximum impact for minimum effort, kind of?
Sort of, yeah. But the key insight is that the best leverage points are often not obvious. They're usually not the symptoms you see right away. They might be deeper things like the team's underlying beliefs, how information flows, or the structure of those feedback loops we talked about. Hitting those points can be way more effective than just tackling surface problems.
Right, finding the master switch instead of changing every light bulb. But isn't there a risk? If you focus too much on one leverage point, could you miss other important things, especially since everything's connected?
That's a really good question. It highlights that systems thinking isn't about being narrow-minded. It's not just focusing on one point to the exclusion of all else. It's about understanding the whole system well enough to identify the point that will give you the most positive ripple effect. It's targeted, it's informed, but you still need that broader view.
Okay, that makes sense. So let's bring this down to earth. What does all this mean for someone actually launching or growing a business? Why is this way of thinking a game changer in practice?
Well, entrepreneurship is fundamentally about creating something new within complex existing systems, right? So a systems approach gives you some real advantages. First, it helps you get beyond just fixing symptoms.
Like putting out fires all the time.
Exactly. If sales are down, linear thinking might just say, okay, run a discount, quick fix. But systems thinking pushes you. Why are sales down? Maybe your customer onboarding is confusing people, leading to churn. Maybe the market shifted slightly. Maybe a competitor did something clever. You dig for the root cause.
And solve the real problem.
Precisely. Which saves you time and resources in the long run.
That alone feels huge. It also sounds like it could help avoid those nasty surprises, the unintended consequences that can really hurt a startup.
It absolutely can, because you start actively thinking about them. For instance, you roll out a cool new feature. Great. But does it mess up the workflow for another group of your customers? Or you hire really fast. Seems good, right? But did you build the onboarding and support structures? If not, you might just strain your resources, dilute your culture, and ironically, slow things down. Systems thinking helps you anticipate these ripples.
Turns surprises into calculated risks, maybe.
That's a good way to think about it, yeah.
And thinking longer term, how does it help build a business model that's actually sustainable, especially when markets change so fast?
By forcing you to understand how everything interacts, product, marketing, sales, operations, finance, even your suppliers. You see how they all support or potentially undermine each other. This lets you design models that are robust, scalable, and built for long-term value, not just quick wins.
And it probably clarifies what actually drives growth, because it's often not just one single thing, is it?
That's right. Is it your marketing budget? Is it constant innovation? Or maybe it's amazing customer service creating word of mouth. Seeing the whole system helps you pinpoint the most powerful levers for sustainable growth, not just temporary bumps.
Okay, and lastly, adaptability. The world changes constantly. How does this help?
Because it helps you build a smarter, more responsive organization. If you understand the system and its environment, you can sense market shifts, spot new competitors, understand evolving customer needs much faster. You're building something more like a living organism that can adapt, rather than a rigid machine that might just break when things change.
This sounds incredibly powerful. Okay, but the big question, how does an entrepreneur actually do this day to day? Our sources mention some practical steps. Where do you even start when, say, defining a problem?
Right, practical application. When you're defining a problem, the biggest mistake is stopping too soon, at the surface level. A great technique is the 5 whys. Just keep asking why until you get past the obvious symptoms.
Like peeling an onion.
Exactly. Sales are down. Why? Leads are low. Why? Marketing is not hitting the mark. Why? We don't really get our audience. Why? We haven't talked to customers properly in months. Boom, you get to something fundamental.
Yeah.
And another key thing, try to map the system. Just sketch it out. What are the key parts related to the problem? Who's involved? What are the connections, the processes, inputs, outputs? Just visualizing it can spark huge insights.
Makes it less abstract right away. Okay, how about applying it to something really core, like designing the business model itself?
Yeah, for the business model, you want to really visualize those interdependencies. How does your value proposition actually rely on your key resources or your partners? How do your customer relationships drive revenue, but also affect your costs?
Tools like the business model canvas seem relevant here.
Absolutely. The canvas is great for mapping these relationships. And critically, look for the feedback loops within your model. How does getting more users create network effects? That's a reinforcing loop. Or maybe, how does your server capacity act as a limit if you grow too fast? That's a balancing loop you need to manage.
Seeing the moving parts and their limits. Got it. What about using this for strategy and growth planning?
For strategy, always be hunting for those leverage points we talked about. Where can a focused effort create the biggest positive ripple? Don't try to fix everything at once. And really, really consider the second-order effects.
The downstream consequences.
Yeah. If you enter a new market, what happens next? What's the impact on your current operations, your team's workload, your brand, your existing customers? Think 2 or 3 steps ahead. And as you scale, actively model how things might change, what relationships break, what new bottlenecks appear when you're 10 times bigger. Anticipate.
That's definitely thinking ahead. And what about innovation? It often feels so spontaneous.
Well, yes and no. Often, innovation comes from seeing connections others miss, or spotting gaps in the existing system, finding new ways to link existing ideas or meeting unmet needs. It's about seeing the system differently. And you also have to understand the ecosystem your innovation will land in.
The environment it has to survive in.
Right. How does it fit the market? What helps it take off? What are the barriers? It's not just about the cool new thing, but how it plugs into everything else.
That makes sense. It's not in a vacuum. And what about the human side? Team building, culture. That feels less like a system.
Oh, but it absolutely is. You have to see the organization itself as a human system. How decisions get made, how people communicate, the structure, the incentives. All these things interact and create the culture, the morale, the productivity, the innovation capacity. It's a living web.
So managing that web.
Yeah, and a key part of that is fostering a culture of feedback, really promoting open communication, creating safe ways for people to share what's working, what's not. That allows the whole system, the whole team to learn and adapt constantly. It helps you see those emerging cultural dynamics too.
And this all connects, finally, to the bigger picture stuff like sustainability and impact, making a positive difference.
Yes, it naturally broadens your view. Systems thinking pushes you to consider the long-term impact of your business choices on the community, the environment, society. Can you actually design your business so that doing good, socially or environmentally, is directly linked to your financial success?
Creating reinforcing loops of value.
Exactly. That's the systemic win-win, where profit and purpose aren't fighting each other, but actually drive each other forward.
Okay, it's clearly a powerful mindset shift. But for someone listening thinking, okay, I want to try this, are there simple tools they can use to get started, like today?
Absolutely. It is a mindset first, but tools definitely help. Causal loop diagrams, or CLDs, are really useful. They help you visually map out the key variables and how they influence each other, making those feedback loops really obvious.
So you can actually see the reinforcing loop, like marketing spend leading to revenue, leading to more spend.
Exactly. Or you might map out a balancing loop showing how increased workload leads to burnout, which reduces productivity, stabilizing the workload in a bad way. Seeing it visually makes a difference.
That sounds really practical for untangling complex situations.
It is. And then there's the 5 whys technique we already mentioned. Super simple, super powerful for getting to root causes. Just keep asking why. Another useful one is scenario planning.
Thinking about different futures.
Right. Thinking through a few different plausible ways the future might unfold based on market trends, competitor moves, whatever, and then figuring out strategies that would work reasonably well across those different scenarios. It builds resilience. And maybe a bit more advanced, but stock and flow diagrams can be great for modeling things over time, like user growth, inventory levels, or cash flow, showing how accumulations change based on inflows and outflows.
Like seeing if user churn is canceling out new signups.
Precisely. It gives you that dynamic view.
Okay, this approach sounds like it brings amazing clarity. But it can't be all easy, right? What are some of the challenges or hurdles entrepreneurs face when they try to adopt this kind of thinking?
You're right. It definitely has its challenges. One big one is just complexity overload. Systems can feel overwhelming. So many parts, so many connections. People can get stuck in analysis paralysis.
Drowning in detail.
Yeah. The key is really to focus on understanding the most important dynamics, the key patterns, not necessarily mapping every single tiny thing.
Focus on the big levers. What else?
Well, it's a significant mindset shift. We're often trained to think linearly, A causes B, shifting to see feedback loops, delays, interconnectedness. It takes conscious effort and practice. It doesn't just happen.
Need to rewire the brain a bit.
Kinda, yeah. And sometimes you just don't have the data you wish you had to fully understand certain connections. Data limitations can be real, though often you can find creative ways around it, using qualitative insights or proxies.
And people prefer simple answers, don't they? Is there resistance?
Oh, definitely. People often like straightforward explanations. Coming in with a systems view, talking about loops and delays, it can seem complicated, so there can be resistance to change. You need patience, good communication, and maybe showing people with clear examples how this approach actually leads to better, often missed solutions. But ultimately, I really believe that learning to see and understand systems isn't just nice to have anymore. It's becoming a necessity for entrepreneurs. If you embrace systems thinking, you can really move beyond constantly fighting fires and making reactive choices.
Towards building something more intentional.
Exactly. You can create ventures that are not just successful in the short term, but are actually designed to adapt, thrive, and last in environments that are always changing.
It really does sound like the entrepreneur's compass, doesn't it? Helping you navigate those often stormy seas of innovation and build something that truly endures.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening. As you think about your own work, your own venture, consider not just the immediate problems you're tackling today. Ask yourself, what systemic patterns are you reinforcing or maybe disrupting with every single decision you make?
Take a moment today, maybe, to look at your own venture through this different lens. You might just spot your next big breakthrough, maybe one that was hiding in plain sight all along.